Closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
What's up and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we are going to be doing something new. I'm actually going to start a new series on my channel and it's going to be called How To. In this series there's going to be so many different things: contour, winged eyeliner, eyebrows, everything like that. But today we're going to start out with the most simple, and it's just going to be a basic eyeshadow routine. But before we get started, if you guys are new to my channel, welcome. If you guys are not new, welcome back, and thank you so much for coming back. It means so much to me. If you have not already, don't forget to subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Comment down in the comment section below to let me know what you guys want to see. So I have some ideas for some future videos, and without further ado, let's do some eyeshadow. So before we get started, I do just want to say that the reason that I'm going to do this series is because I feel like YouTube is so saturated with hauls and new makeup and things like that, but the teaching and learning isn't happening when all that's being posted on YouTube right now is these huge hauls, $3,000 hauls from Sephora and things like that. And a lot of times these beauty influencers are so used to people just watching them, they're not actually explaining what they're doing. So am I right in everything that I do? No, but this is just how I do things, what's worked for me, how I learned how to do them. Also, I do want to add that I am going to be taking a little bit different of a direction with my channel. I've been watching this YouTuber who kind of put things into perspective for me for the beauty community. Not that the beauty community is bad or anything like that, but they definitely market everything to make you buy it and purchase it, and I just have to slow down. I own a home. I'm a new homeowner. I'm by myself. You know, I do everything by myself. So I'm going to try to take my channel in a different direction. That's not to say that I'm not going to buy any new products or anything like that, but I'm going to be a little bit more selective with how and where I spend my money, especially on makeup. I know you guys like seeing new makeup and stuff like that, but it's just not feasible for the everyday person. And I'm an everyday person, so I have to remember that, and I have to stay in my own lane. So yeah. Okay, so I do have a couple of products that I feel like are necessary to achieve what I'm going to be doing. Like I said, I'm just going to be doing this really easy going eyeshadow how to do a basic eyeshadow. Nothing crazy, no smoky, nothing like that. Just basic eyeshadow that will complement any face shape, any eye shape, and you can be on your way out the door within 10 to 15 minutes. So the palette that I'm choosing to use for this video is the Jaclyn Hill palette. Now that is because I feel like this palette right here is a really good beginner palette. However, you do not have to have this exact palette. You just need basically 3 to 4 colors that go from light to dark. And then also to achieve this look, I have picked out 4 brushes. Now I feel like these 4 brushes are absolutely necessary for anybody who's wanting to learn makeup or start playing with makeup. I feel like these, you can achieve so much with just these right here. So the first brush that I'm going to be showing you guys today is this brush right here. Now this came in my Jaclyn Hill collection set, but this one specifically is not necessary. The only thing that you're going to need is a big rounded blender brush. So this is a super puffy brush. As you can tell, there's not much shape to it. It's not tapered, it's not pointed, nothing like that. So a big fat fluffy blender. Now the next blender that I'm going to show you, as you can see, goes down in size. So now it's starting to get a little bit more detailed. So it's still a blender, it's still a puffy blender, but it's nowhere near as fat and thick. This is for more of a detailed work, where this is going to be a good blender. This is going to be able to start defining that crease. And then the third brush that I have is a small tapered blender. Now as you can see, this kind of goes into a point. This one is really good for digging into that crease. And then the next one is a pencil brush. Now don't get it twisted, this pencil brush is still pretty fluffy. It's just not a huge fluffy blender. This is going to be a little bit more precise, and this is going to be used for under the waterline. You can use just about any pencil brush. I just recommend one that has a little bit of give to it so you're able to blend everything out. Okay, so the very first color that we're going to put on our lid, we're going to use that super big fat fluffy brush, and we are going to dig into a transition shade. So as you can tell right here, these two, well, these 3 are my most loved in this palette, but these 2 are the closest thing in this palette to my actual skin tone. You don't want it to be your exact skin tone, however, it needs to be just a little bit darker just so you can actually see, and that's what we're going to go in with first with our puffy fluffy blender. I'm just going to dip into this shade right here. And since it is such a lighter shade, you can get a decent amount on your brush, but always be sure to tap out your brush for the excess. So what we're going to do with this color right here, this is considered your transition shade. You are going to go above your crease, but below your eyebrow bone. So what I do is I start just blending it in. And you can kind of just do the windshield wiper motions. It just feels the most natural to me personally. And as you can see, that color is depositing exactly where I want it to. So I kind of push my brush up underneath my brow bone and then do the windshield wiper. So I'm going to go in with just a little bit more of that same shade. Tap off your brush, and we're going to do it again. So you can slowly start to build your actual color. So now that I have the desired deepness that I want right here in my crease, I'm going to take this same brush and I'm going to blend upwards towards my brow bone. Still windshield wiper motions or tiny little circles, but I just take the same brush and the same color. The color is already off the brush and onto my eye, and you just kind of blend it up. And that's so you don't have a harsh line between your brow bone and your actual transition shade. So as you can see right there, we have a fairly decent blend, and we're going to move on to the next eye. So I meant to mention before I even started this entire video, I did set my eyes. So I used my concealer, blended in with the Beauty Blender, and then I set it with powder. That's what I personally like to do. It's a lot easier for a powder to blend onto a powder than a powder onto cream. And also when you set your eyelids, it gives you a better chance for one, for your makeup to last longer, and two, for your color to pop a little bit better. So now that we have our entire transition on our eyes, or our first transition shade at least, we are going to dive into a color a little bit darker. So as you can see, we took this color right here and we did our transition. So next what we're going to do is we're going to go a couple shades darker. So the rule of the game for me personally, the darker the color, the smaller the brush. So big brush and you work your way all the way down to little brush, basically. Big fluffy, work your way all the way down to the pencil brush. So the next brush that we're going to be using is the second brush that I showed you guys. So it's still fluffy, it still has a lot of blending capability, but it's going to be a little bit more precise. And since we're going with a darker color, we're going to want to be a little bit more precise. So since we went in with this shade right here for our transition, I'm going to dip into this shade next. And this is going to be like our second transition color. Always make sure to tap off your brush. And since this transition shade went pretty high up, as close to the brow bone as you can get it while blending it in, we're going to go just a little bit below with this shade. So a little bit below where we were before. And you're going to use the exact same technique. You're going to use windshield wiper motions, and then you're going to do little circles. And that's just to ensure that everything is blended in really well. I'm going to dip in just for a little bit more, and then I'm going to focus that right here on this outer corner. And I'm just going to push that product in just to make sure everything flows together and is seamless. So back and forth, back and forth. And then what I like to do is I like to use my previous brush with the transition color, and then I go through and I just keep blending. So I go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that just blends those two shades together. So I'm sure you can see a little bit of a difference. We have more definition on this eye than we do over here. Now you can just do your makeup look and have one transition shade, throw in some mascara and call it a day. But I just wanted to show you what I typically do. I typically use 3 to 4 shades on like a basic normal day. So now that I have this eye how I want it to look, we're going to move on to the next one. Also, a tip or trick that I like to use is make sure you keep your fingers at the end of your brush. You don't want to hold your brush like this right here, because the lighter your hand is, the easier things are going to blend. We're going to take this big fluffy blender and just, you can do this very messily, it does not matter. That just makes everything super seamless and blended. So now that we have our two transition shades on, now it's time to go a step darker. So the shade that we're going to be using this time is going to be much, much darker. So with this shade, we're going to go super, super light-handed. Like I said, we're not going to do anything crazy. It's not technically going to be a smoky eye, but you have to be sure that you're using a light hand. And we're going to go in with this shade right here. And with this shade, we are going to be using the smallest blending brush that I brought out. And this one is super tapered. You can see it's way more pointy. It's a lot less fluffy. And that's because we're getting more detailed with a darker color. The darker the color, the smaller the brush. That's my rule. So we're just going to dip into that shade right there. And we're super going to push the shade off because we don't want it to be too dark. We don't want it to be too overbearing. But you still want to be able to see that pigment on your eye. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to focus this color even further down than we did before and on the outer edge. A lot of times when you bring that darker color into your inner corner, it tends to close things off a little bit. So we're just going to keep it on the outer corner. Now at this point, I'm on the outer corner of my lid and I'm pushing the brush down and I just start scrubbing it in right there on the very corner. And you want to be sure that you get it into your crease, but you don't want to go too high up. You want this to be exactly where your crease is and below, all the way down to your lash line. What I like to do is I like to pack the shade on first and get it as pigmented as I want it to be. And then that's when I start blending. And my trick to blending is since this brush right here already has that pigment on it, we're going to sit it down and we're going to blend with the brush that we used before. The brush that we used for that second shade, that's the brush I'm going to blend with right now. And I'm just going to flick it into the center of my eye like this and flick it up. And then I do small little circles like this. I work really hard on this outer corner just to make sure there's no straight line of that darkest color. And then if you're tired of blending with this, then you can go in with your big fluffy brush and start blending as well. Okay, so as you can see, we have no definition, no darkness over here on this eye, and we do on this eye. So this right here, this third shade, in my opinion, really spices it up, makes it not so boring and basic. But this is, in my opinion, a very simple, easy eyeshadow that can be accomplished by anybody. So now we're going to do that on my other eye. Remember to keep your fingers at the end of your brushes. That helps you blend a little bit better. A lighter hand will get you a lot farther in this eyeshadow game. It's always easier to add product versus trying to take product away. So I always tell people to build up to it. Don't immediately just go in and throw it on your eye because then you're going to have a hard time blending. It's a lot easier to blend as you go. So I just added just a little bit more, and then I'm still going to take that second brush that we used and just blend those edges out. Back and forth, windshield wipers. And then just to be sure that everything is blended, I'm going in with my biggest fluffy brush. At this point, it's basically a brush that has no color or no pigment on it. It's just acting as a very smooth blender. So now that I am exactly where I want to be with my definition and my crease and my transition, everything like that, I am going to take a shimmer shade on my finger and we're just going to pat that on to the lid. So the shade that I'll be using is going to be this one right here. Now for this look, I'm choosing a very light and easy, airy color for the lid. So we have this right here on our finger and we are just going to pat that onto our lid. Now, if you have longer nails like I do, sometimes it can be easier to use a brush. I just personally feel like the brush payoff is not the same as it is with your finger. I'm going to go in and do the other side. So now that I have that lighter shimmer on my lid, I am just going to take that second blending brush that we used and I'm just going to go right over top of where that shimmer shade is and just blend that in to my transition and my crease. I don't like to have any harsh lines. I'm also going to take the brush that we used with the darkest shade, and I'm just going to stamp this back into the outer corner like this. And I'm not doing anything but literally stamping it. And that's just in case some of that shimmer shade got onto your outer edge where your darkest color is. Okay, so now technically the eye look could be complete, but I prefer to take it up just a little bit of a notch, and we're going to repeat basically the same steps down below my waterline. Now that just makes the look, in my opinion, a little bit more cohesive. It doesn't leave under here super bare. You could totally rock this just like this. It would be perfectly fine. I do it sometimes. But I do like to add this below my waterline just because I think it makes the makeup look more complete. So this is where the pencil brush comes in. So we are going to take this pencil brush and we are going to repeat the same steps basically with the same colors. The first color that we dove into was this one right here. So I'm going to take this pencil brush and I'm just going to go right below my eyelashes. Now, since this is a transition shade, quote unquote, you can be a little bit more messy with it because a lot of your eyelashes are going to cover the majority of it. The blending is still just as important down here on the lower lash line, but with this specific color, you can be a little bit more messy because it's the closest to your skin tone. And this color right here is basically just laying a base for the other colors. Okay, so now that we have that on the lower lash line, I'm sure you guys can tell a bit of a difference. It just looks a little bit more shaded and defined. So now we're going to go in with the second shade that we used, which is right here. And we're just going to get the tiniest bit of this shade on just the edge of the brush. And we're going to tap it off. And we're going to repeat the same steps, but we're going to scrub it into our lash line, basically. So you want to get as close to your lash line as you possibly can. You can see a big difference already. You don't want to blow this out too far. You don't want to be too messy. You want to keep it, you want to get it as close as you can without physically getting it into your waterline. And now this next step, we're basically how we kept that darker shade on that outer corner. We're going to do the same with this pencil brush right here under the waterline. But you want to be so careful, and you want to do it ever so slightly. I mean, you hardly want to literally, you just want to tap like that, tap it off. And you're just going to do that on the outer edge. So the outer, I would say 3/4 of your eye. And you're going to get it directly in that lash line. So then once I have the desired darkness on the outer 3 corners of my lash line below my waterline, I take that brush that I was using and I scrub it off on my hand and make sure there is no dark color still on the brush. And I dip back into that very first shade, that transition shade, and then I do that messy thing again. Literally go back over the entire area and just blend back and forth. And to me, once you do that with the first transition shade, that just brings everything together and it helps it blend more. You don't want it to be super harsh lines. You want the colors to look like they're melting together. You don't want to be able to see each individual color. So that's why I always take that transition shade and go back over all of the shades at once. You just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so now that the eye look is done, I'm going to hop off camera, put on just a little bit of liner and then some mascara, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I am back. All I did was put some nude eyeliner in my waterline. That does help your eyes appear more awake and less sleepy. And then, of course, I put on some mascara. So this right here is the final look. And this right here is how I achieve my basic, everyday, super easy eyeshadow look. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below, as well as anything that you guys want to learn. If I am physically capable of whatever you guys are asking me to teach, then I absolutely will. Like I said before, This is not the only way that you can achieve this look right here. There are plenty of other ways, but this is just the way that I have taught myself and learned, and this, in my opinion, is the easiest way to get this look right here. So yeah, this right here is the end of the video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.